You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list, he's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice.
Welcome to episode 138 of Broadsheet Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you an action-packed show tonight. Let's go around the horn with who we have and then what we're going to cover. I got Jason Seattle with me.
Hey, Tom, what's up?
Jason, I got Jimmy the Chalk.
Good evening, Thomas.
Good evening. And that's it for tonight, just the three of us. If you're watching on YouTube, only one is on camera. We have some technical difficulties on one end, so it's just myself on the camera. Tonight's show, we're going to cover a little baseball and what's been going on around the major leagues and what the Phillies have done or lack thereof. We're going to do an Eagles recap, Eagles preview, and the picks. Be prepared because over the next 2 weeks, there is a lot of football going to be played. I think there's a game on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday again,
I think so.
Sunday, and then you sprinkle in college football in between, and there's pretty much football on from now. I was just watching James Madison in Western Kentucky, so there's literally football.
I had the West Virginia Memphis Classic on last night till about 2 in the morning or whatever.
I didn't even realize it starts. Yeah. So there is
I think they must have been in like San Francisco because they were playing like after midnight. The game was in like the third quarter.
So yeah, be prepared. So we do have we will cover the picks as always. And before we get started, tonight's show, and as always, is sponsored by our sponsor, Giovannina's Pizza. You tried the rest, now try the best, and continues with the every Sixers win, you get buy one get one free. Put in blow it up in the coupon code. And since this promotion's going on, the Sixers won a few games, so we're giving out a lot of free pies, Giovannina's. But I think they'll survive, as reviews are coming in, and it's one of the hottest new places here in our area. Okay, let's get started with a little bit of baseball. Jason, you have do you want to cover first maybe some of the things that you've seen throughout the league as far as there's a couple trades, a couple signings, things like that?
Yeah, so some of the guys who the Phillies will not be getting are, obviously Soto signed with the Mets. Tucker was traded to the Cubs. Who's he traded to? Cubs, yeah.
Cubs, yep.
Snell has been signed, so he's gone. Max Fried is gone. Adames, who the Phillies weren't going to sign anyway, he's gone. Eovaldi, O'Neill, Bellinger just got traded to the Yankees, so he's another guy that's been mentioned. He's gone.
By the way, did you see the story on Bellinger and Stanton?
Oh yeah, his ex-wife
Stanton's ex-girlfriend is now married to Bellinger, so that ought to be interesting.
That is very interesting. And then I just saw Arenado block the trade to the Astros. So the Astros are apparently in the market for a third baseman, which will lead me to my point about it sounds like the Phillies are offering Alec Bohm around like he's a hot potato.
Which is confusing because Topper was on TV saying they have not been shopping Alec Bohm around.
I think that's just damage control, and then he could come and say, "Well, they made us a big offer, and we decided to go that way."
It's always what's the story where Carter went into Holmgren's office and Holmgren told him, "Don't worry, we're not trading you," and literally the next morning, I think he was traded or whatever.
I think it was like hours, if not minutes.
We know obviously Bohm's being shopped around.
He's being shopped around like crazy. The one thing I heard was they offered him to the A's for Mason Miller, and the A's immediately ended the conversation. They had no interest in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like with the Phillies, there's one, Bohm's not going to get anything of big. I guess the asking price for Bohm is probably steeper than. I mean, and rightfully so. The Phillies are going to try steeper than their teams are willing to do. And The Phillies, on the other hand, and they're not getting any of these guys because the asking price for them is to give up a Miller or a Painter, and unless they're willing to give those guys
Yeah.
up, they're not getting those types of players.
And then apparently the Astros don't like his defense, so they're not interested in Bohm. Which I don't know. I mean, that could change now if maybe they wanted Arenado. Now that they're not going to get him, maybe they'll be interested in Bohm. But the one trade I did hear, I think it was Ken Rosenthal. He came on. And he said Bohm will be traded, and he said the one thing he heard was Bohm, and not 1-for-1. There could be other moving parts, but Bohm for Castillo, which would be really nice to bring him here. He would slot right into the second starter.
So what are the Phillies going to do at third base then? If they're not,
I think Bregman's still there. Bregman's still out there, right? Maybe you sign a stopgap guy until Aiden Miller's ready. So maybe you sign a guy for 1 year. Justin Turner. I don't know. I'm just pulling names out of my.
I mean, it's not going to be a Sosa situation, right? Where Sosa's your third baseman.
No,
I hope not.
That would. I don't see that happening at all. You cannot be a contender and go into the season with Edmundo Sosa as your
right. That's what I'm making sure.
So I still think that they would look to sign Santander, although he wants 5 years. I don't know if they're interested in that.
I saw 3 years 60. He'll probably get it done, which is.
I think
that's a Castellanos. I mean, Castellanos got 2 years left, but that's
Yeah.
$20 million a year is what you gave Castellanos.
Yeah, that's reasonable. And then, I mean, Tanner Scott to me would be a perfect fit to bring him in as the closer, because you can't. They signed Jordan Romano. I guess we should bring that up. And he I don't know what happened to him last year, but he was terrible last year. But he was a solid closer before that. But I don't know.
It sounds like the injuries, right, is what kind of slowed him up.
Maybe, but I mean, are you going to trust him as your closer?
No, I mean that seems like a low risk, high reward type of signing,
Which
right?
I'm fine with, but I mean, you also have to now go bring in a Tanner Scott or something like that. So I don't know. They're going to do something. Like Dombrowski is not going to not do something. Like something's going to happen soon.
Yeah, Chalky. Any thoughts with around the league and the Phillies and that their lack of?
I mean, the Soto. I mean, I think we all had the Mets as the favorite for that, so that's not a surprise. Snell to the Dodgers was maybe slightly surprising. I didn't think they were going to grab, because I mean, they obviously had injury concerns last year with most of their top guys, but now your rotation in some format is Glasnow, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Snell. They're going to bring Kershaw back. I know you can't count on him, but they have a couple other young kids that they could slot in. They were, they're in on every Japanese player. So Sasaki was rumored. Now, so I don't think that's going to happen. I would like to see the Phillies take a shot on him, but sounds like San Diego might have more of an inside track, since he likes his idol is Darvish, and it's not as a matter of outbidding somebody, because you have to use your international pool money. So it's like 6 versus 7 million. So you're not going to outbid somebody and make that much of a difference. But and the one trade that I thought the Phillies would be going for was Crochet, and he ended up in Boston. So that they were interested and in on it, but swung and missed on that. If I'm the Phillies, I don't know what the asking price on these guys are going to be, but the Padres reportedly have a couple of their guys on the block. So that's Cease. If you could get a Reyes without giving up the farm, I mean, there's your 300 hitter that this lineup lacks, and he can play first base, second base, third base in the infield. He can play wherever you want him to play. I don't know what that would cost, but if he's out there in the market, I mean, if you traded Bowman something for him, I don't know if you want to get off Bohm at this point, because they can't get off of their bigger contracts, the Machado, Tatis, those guys, if they were even looking to. So, and then like your top pitching, Burns, I'm not, if Burns is out there like Snell was last year, okay, but I don't want to give Burns 5 years. He's been on a slight decline each year, so I don't want to lock in on that.
They're not. Doing
And then Flaherty, Manaea. I think they're going to trade for a pitcher somewhere. I think that's where it comes from, unless they swing and miss and they have to end up. I mean, if you want to take a flyer on a guy like Bueller, if he doesn't get a big deal, and say, well, if he's hurt again, we'll have Painter pitch the second half of the year or something. I mean, you could do that. Scott would obviously be the bullpen piece that's out there. Now, the one name I think they might have interest in Arenado. They're on Arenado's list of teams he'll go to. But and I'm blanking on his name now, the St. Louis closer is a guy that I've heard the Phillies connected to. Yeah, Ryan so I don't know much of him other than he flamed out against the Phillies 2 years ago in the playoffs. But he'd be an upgrade.
They apparently like him. Apparently, Dombrowski likes him a lot.
So I don't know if an Arenado Helsley package that can be swung without giving up, Painter and Miller. You would almost definitely have to go with Bohm there in some way, I would think. So I just hope that you could say this team was the best team in the league for however long last year, and then they just didn't play well in the playoffs. But you can't stand pat, I don't think so. They'll do something, and it'll be interesting to see if Dombrowski doesn't make a splash like he hasn't for the last couple of trade deadlines and off seasons. But you got to make a move.
I mean, it looks like at this point they're not. The Painter and Miller are off the table.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving either of those.
Right, so it's like they want to improve the team, but they also don't want to be in a situation like they were where they all have no farm system either. So you have to. So I mean, it's Dombrowski has to kind of get creative and fill out a team by trading Crawford's like these meddling minor league players, or I mean, like signing a Bregman, which doesn't cost you a player, and you improved your team, or moving a Turner to the center field and picking up things like that. Which I don't know if any of that's going to happen, but I mean that's the situation. But I know it's time for Dombrowski to do something because he did nothing at the trade deadline. He didn't. It's like people are starting to question him at this point. We have here on the podcast as well.
I would think the guys that are in play to be traded are obviously Bohm. I think Ranger, Suarez could get moved, right? I think Marsh obviously would be a candidate to get traded.
And he's just a throw-in. I mean, Marsh is a...
Yeah, he's a throw-in. But, I mean, somebody might want him as a platoon outfielder, you never know. The center fielder, escaping me.
Rojas.
He can't hit, right. He's another guy.
Kirkring, is that a guy that...
I don't think they would trade him. I think they like him too much.
You'd have to get a pretty decent name back as part of a bigger package, I think. I mean, Castellanos seems like he's been out there for 3 years now.
Well, there's guys they would trade.
But there's a name I mentioned before. I think if the right deal is there, they'll pull the trigger. I think Stott should be on the table, and it wouldn't surprise me in the right deal if he were to go. Now, I think he might be your most valuable piece of your starters to get a return on.
Yeah, that's funny because they came out with the report last week that Stott was dealing with an elbow injury for half not the whole. So is that like, are they putting that out there to tell teams like Stott's down year was because of his elbow injury, so he's worth more, or is that they were just? I mean, it was just that's what happened, so that's what they said. So that's interesting.
And I do think that they would move prospects. I just don't think they'll move the ones you mentioned, Miller and Payne.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't know how much
Crawford and below.
But how much does they get you? That's the problem. Obviously, they've proven they're probably not getting you the Crochets.
Right.
It looks like.
Yeah.
So who's left to get, with those types of players?
That's the problem you have, though. When you have guys like that, then teams insist on getting them instead.
And the problem with the Phillies is they just started to build up their farm system, so they don't have a plethora of. They don't have two Painters and two Millers where they could take a shot and give one up.
No.
They have one of each of these types of guys, so where like the Yankees and teams like that, the Dodgers, they could keep giving away these guys and keep have more and more in the ranks.
And that's why I think Hope, in my opinion, might make a guy like Stott more appealing because he's still young. He's got years of control left, and so he's past that prospect barrier, but he's the in between of a high paying star and a prospect. He's shown a little bit in the league, and you can control him and hopefully get him back to the way he played before last year when he was hurt or not hurt.
Yeah, but I just think guys like Stott still are only going to get you a return.
You're not going to get. It's part of a package. It's part of a package.
Right.
Stott and Crawford or something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
and then they got to figure out. They got to figure out what they're going to do at catcher. They're saying they want to give Real Muto less games this year, so they Stubbs is probably or they can bring Stubbs back if they want to because they tendered him an offer. But I know they have one of their higher rated prospects as a catcher, but I don't think he's gone above Double-A yet. So that's probably a couple years down the road. But
so Matt, the problem with those guys too is you can't ask them to play every third game, every fourth game when they're still developing too. Like like Real Muta's backup needs to be a veteran, a guy that you can get away with Marchand, I guess, but a guy
he's got to stay healthy though.
Yeah, I would make Marchand the backup. I think Stubbs is strictly as a depth guy for AAA. Maybe that other prospect.
I mean, he's defensively he was fine.
Yeah, but he can't hit at all.
No, and if you had JT playing six games a week, then he's fine. But if you want to not have him, if you want to play 3-4 games a week, you can't have Stubbs.
No, I mean there's guys out there that I think would fit. I mean, Kelly will probably get a starter deal. Jansen on the Red Sox. Diaz, who was on Colorado, then got traded. These are guys that might, if they're going to give him, say, 2 games a week, they might take a deal like that, even though they're not going to be the starter per se, which would be a better fit than a prospect coming up who you want to see what they can do.
I mean, that position, too, is also dependent on, the rest of your team. So if you don't have, say, a Rojas in your lineup who – who's now on the out at the 8 or 9 spot. You can't have thumbs up to you, Jason. You can't have Stubbs and then followed up by Rojas batting after hit. Like that type of lineup is just you can't do it. It can't happen. And even Marsh proven he's a fourth outfielder. He's not a starting outfielder.
No.
All right. Anything? I mean, is this? Do you see things happening soon, or are we getting closer to training camp spring training when we see this stuff?
I mean, I think if nothing happens by Friday, nothing's going to happen until January because now you got Christmas. They're not going to do anything next week, right before Christmas, or right after Christmas, and then if it's not going to be today or tomorrow or Friday, I think it's going to be January.
Yeah, I mean, Montgomery and Snell held out to the last minute last year, and Snell ended up having a good year and got out of it. That kind of blew up in their faces because now Montgomery they want to try to get rid of, and he could have signed a better deal. So I don't think they're going to those guys are going to wait that late to sign. So I think, like Jason said, if it's not done by Friday, somewhere between the first week and third week of January, you might see some movement across the league because I don't think people want to wait till they start sending the pitchers and catchers down to make some of these moves, unless people are asking for ridiculous, amounts. But Hernandez and Santander are still out there in the outfield that have yet to get signed. And I can't see those two guys holding out much longer. Somebody will make a move to get one of them in, or they'll lower their asking price. I think in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Let's move on. Eagles recap. So Eagles played another impressive game, beating Pittsburgh Steelers by, I don't remember, double digits?
27-13.
There you go. Yeah, 14-point lead. Could have been more, obviously, if they wanted to score on that last drive. I mean, that drive was milking the clock. But another impressive victory. They did a little different. That passing, was a big thing all week. I'm sure it was talked on the pod. The passing offense looked much better. Hurts at times looked much better. At times he went back to being Jalen Hurts. But it was a good, impressive win. The defense played well again. And, I mean, the team's now up to 10 games in a row, fighting for the one spot against the underrated Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, who are dealing with a lot of injuries. Jason, recap of the Eagles game last week?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they dominated the game yards wise for sure. I mean, it's 401 to 163, that's huge. Hurts threw the ball. Still not convinced, but he did throw the ball well in the game. Defense was, like you said, strong again. I thought the Harris fumble kind of ended the game. Like there was some momentum for Pittsburgh there. If they scored, you don't know what would have happened. But once he fumbled, like I don't know what the hell he did. He just dropped the ball.
Yeah, it looked like he took his eyes off. His
He
eyes
just
went
took his
off.
eyes off the pitch.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the game. So I just think they're making less mistakes than other teams that they're playing. They're not making mistakes, and the teams they're playing are making mistakes.
Yeah. Also, too, I mean, you go through. We talk about turnovers being keys to games, but it's not necessarily turnovers. It's what happens after the turnover, and we saw it in Green Bay, and I'm sure we could think back to other games. They had 2 bad turnovers, put them right in position, and Pittsburgh got 3 points out of it. The Eagles get the turnover, and take it down the field and score a touchdown. So that's the little aspects of the game that they're doing better than the other teams until the fourth quarter, and then they just dominate
the ball at that
in the
point.
fourth quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that was the game in a nutshell. It wasn't really a game in the second half after Harris fumbled the ball, and they couldn't get the ball back from him. I think Pittsburgh only had 2 possessions in the second half.
Yeah, they ran 11 plays in the second half, and the Eagles ran 21 plays on that one drive.
Yeah.
I mean, Tomlin kept punting on 4th down at
he's just
obviously the wrong
midfield.
choice, but
it took a nice 3rd and 7 conversion from the Eagles on that first part of the drive, but still, I mean, that's
yeah. I think Tomlin, like I think you mentioned it, Tom. Like he's a great leader, but like as a tactician, he's not.
Yeah,
really.
it's. I mean, something like. I mean, we've come this far too with analytics like that.
Oh,
I was like shocked when he.
Yeah, he makes baffling decisions. So, but hey, I mean, you can't argue against his record. So, but yeah, I mean that's in a nutshell.
Chalky.
Yeah, I think that they have something. Was it the cowardly punt index or something? And that was one of the most cowardly punts all year or something, like where you should have went for it.
I mean, if you're down 7, I'm like I might go.
Yeah,
for it. If you're down 14.
It's 2 scores. Like even if you kick it and the Eagles get a field goal, that's the game right there. Like
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh, like they're known for explosive plays, and their big explosive player Pickens was out. So maybe
absolutely hurt.
That hurt them during the game, but I think that probably led to his decision. Not that it was right at all, but led to his decision to punt. Like,
I mean, I don't know where the line would have been where he would have went for it, because what was it, 4th and 7? I think something like that. So I mean, 4th and 3 probably goes for it. Obviously, I don't know where he draws that line, but I mean, just to reiterate with Jason's point, the Harris fumble was the turning point. Up until that point, Pittsburgh was in the process of putting a drive together, and they had really only had one drive in the whole game to that point. It was the touchdown drive, because they got the 3 points off of the botch punt or the fumble punt where they lost yards and had to kick a field goal. And then the end of the
2 seconds. Yeah, because I missed. I know he fumbled. Did he muff it, or did he just fumble?
No, he caught it and fumbled it. He caught it and fumbled it.
Yeah. No, he started to run and fumble.
And somebody stripped him. Okay.
It was they made it. Yeah, he was a little. He had it out there like a loaf of bread. And to me, like that was, of course, the back-to-back fumbles on possessions. And I mean, I watched that replay. I saw it fumble, and Hurts must have been careless. Like, he had it tucked in under his chin. Like, Watt just made a tremendous play to knock it out. Like, we've seen Hurts be careless or not have sense that somebody was around him. And, like, yeah, you can't fumble, but that was an exceptional play by Watt, which is why he was the leader for the Defensive Player of the Year, I thought. But defense makes them punt, and then the defense stops them there, and the Eagles get that one turnover, and they march it down and punch it in, and that flipped the whole game around. And like I said, the Pittsburgh offense was just grinding their gears. They had like 2 yards through most of the first half, I think, until their touchdown drive or something like that. And really,
the offense was.
They shouldn't even have had the touchdown. Like Gardner Johnson tried to go for the interception. If he tries to just knock the ball down, Freiermuth doesn't probably make that play, which means they're kicking a field goal as it was. So it could have been a lot worse, because if they score at the end, or if they keep that off the board, it's 30 to something, whatever. But it was a dominating win, and now after Detroit's loss, the conversation is, are the Eagles the best team in the NFC? And I'm not quite there yet, but if we had to play Detroit next week with all the injuries they have, I'm not scared to go into Detroit right now. Look at most of their tough games have been at home. They were hanging on by a fingernail to beat Chicago, to beat Green Bay, and then Buffalo finally their luck ran out. They almost lost to LA in the first week at home. They lost to Tampa at home. So that offense is still great, but the specter of going into Detroit, if this defense plays the way they're playing, I'm not scared of it. So we'll see. We'll see if they can get the 1 seed or hang on. But
they have too many injuries, the Lions.
Their injuries are defensively, they can't.
They might have more than the 49ers.
They have no room for error now on offense, because the defense is.
And they just lost Montgomery.
Decimated. And Montgomery, well, he's getting a third opinion, because I guess the first two weren't happy. He wasn't happy about, but.
Here's a point off the topic, but his over in
half
yards,
a yard.
You hear that?
Yeah.
What is it, 750 or 775?
It's like 7. Yeah, whatever it was, he's half a yard short of going over
for the season.
For the season
total.
Imagine having that bet.
Yeah,
that's a big.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
that's a big.
When did he get hurt? Early in the game? I didn't even see.
I didn't even know he was hurt until after the game. I mean, I had it like on the side trying to watch it during the Eagles game, but I didn't see him get hurt. So
all I know is that in the first half, every time the Eagles had a commercial and I flipped, that game was a commercial as well. Literally, I saw no plays in the first half.
Yeah, I had the red zone on laptop, so I had that on the side. So, but
yeah, I mean,
it went long at least. Like the Eagles was over early compared to that one.
Yeah,
that ran really
they
long.
scored 8,000 points.
Yeah,
I mean, the Eagles, their toughness has been very. That's what Shaq. I mean, they were tougher than Baltimore in their game. Yeah. Now they're tougher than these teams that are notorious for just being like tough. Kind of the way the Eagles are winning, and the Eagles are bringing it to those teams. I mean, I've been very, very impressed with their play. I mean, and I think it starts with their defense. Their defense is what's tough. I mean, you watch them tackle. There was one play, I think it was Baum, that he grabbed the guy's leg, and the guy was starting to escape, and right before he escaped, 6 other Eagles were on top of the guy making the tackle. Yeah. They just they're flying. They're flying on the field right now.
To me, they're almost similar to Minnesota because they have a great roster, right? But Minnesota's got Sam Darnold as a quarterback. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Are those quarterbacks good enough?
Well, Hurts. The argument would be Hurts went to a Super Bowl. I mean, he showed he could do it.
He did.
Darnold hasn't shown he can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't trust when he's got to throw the ball. When he's got to throw the ball earlier in the game is different than when he has to throw the ball late in the game.
Yeah. But I would argue, and I'm not. But when he's had to throw the ball late in games, when hasn't he this year? There was the
Atlanta game. I guess he made that.
When are they ever down though? They haven't been down.
But not down. But 3rd and 8 against Baltimore, he needs to make a pass to keep a drive going.
Yeah.
Or Baltimore he makes the play.
Yeah.
3rd and 7 last week, backed up against the 3-yard line. He throws the pass. Little things like that. So, and he's used his legs at times too. There was a 3rd down in. Was the game he ran a lot? Washington, I think, right? On a 3rd down, he had a big run on 3rd down to get. So, he makes plays at a lot of times he has to. I think the bigger question is going to be if they trail early, like in Tampa.
Yeah.
Can he throw the ball to get him?
During this whole streak, they have never really been the come from behind team, like you said, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's 20-10
Right,
at
right,
halftime. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
That
the only game they trailed at half was Washington, and that was still a 1-score game, and they were down, I
right.
think, 10-0 against Cincinnati, maybe, which is
Yeah,
not the end of
that's
the
what I
world,
mean.
but
Like, it's
That
a
would be my question as well.
different
That would be where I.
circumstance when you're tied or
sure.
playing with the lead or right in the game rather than, all right, we're going to let you run. You want to run and run down the clock 10 minutes on your drive, go right
Go
ahead.
ahead, yeah.
We
I
don't
mean,
care.
the mending thing for me with Hurts has been like, now you could, Jason, your point last week was they're going to make him throw, and you don't trust him to do it. So they made him throw, and he had guys wide open, and he hit them. The week before,
Yeah, I mean,
there
he
was
actually-
guys wide open against Carolina, and he wasn't throwing the ball. So, like, what was
afraid
he
to
seeing
throw.
that
Yeah,
week
I mean,
that he
this
didn't
week,
see against Pittsburgh?
He like went through progressions this week. The touchdown to Devontae, he went through. Yeah,
It's almost like he intentionally played bad, like it's rope-a-dope or something, which sounds dumb. I don't think they would do that, but I mean, it's like two completely different
agree.
players because
Yeah, I agree.
they're calling plays to get these guys open, and he's not throwing the ball some weeks, and other weeks he's hitting everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks concussed in some games.
I mean, he was what 12 of 13 for 160, 180 yards in the first half, last week.
I think he knows what he is, right? I think he knows what type of quarterback he is. So, yes, he did do it this week. Is he going to continue to do that? I don't know. Like, I mean, he did it because A.J. Brown threatened a mutiny because, hey, they probably went through – they probably had tape sessions all week, stopping the tape and saying, why aren't you letting the ball go here?
I mean, if they can get if they're designing plays that get these guys that wide open, there is no reason why he can't get them back to a Super Bowl, or he's capable of it. But he's got to show that he's going to play that way every week. We're not seeing him throw guys open where the guys haven't made their break. Progressions can be hit or miss, but if they're calling plays that get the guys wide open, like they were, like there weren't that many like close throws. The one Brown touchdown I think was a good throw, but these guys, he hit them in stride. They had space and they made the most of it. Like if you can get those plays running, there's no reason why he can't get you back to a Super Bowl and get you close. But he just hasn't been consistent with that week in and week out, and that's the maddening thing for me as a fan.
I just want to throw this in. I know we don't talk hockey on this podcast or care about the Flyers, but I just saw the first 3-0 breakaway I've ever seen in my life with the Red Wings against the Flyers. Have you guys ever seen yeah, they scored.
Oh, I was going to say, it was 1-0 Flyers last I saw. Now it's 4-2. But
it was 3-0 breakaway.
I don't think I ever had that in a video game once.
No. Anyway,
that's crazy.
Sorry.
Anyway.
I had to bring it
All right, well, let's go to this week. So you got Eagles are at Washington, their last road game of the season. They could wrap up the division this week. Obviously, they should win the division. If not, they're currently a 3.5 point favorite. 45.5 is the over under. Washington's coming off escaping a victory off of Meeker's Saints, where they went for 2 to try to win the game, which was the right call.
Well, the referees also stopped the play for no reason with 4 seconds left in the game.
They gave him a break.
Gave them an extra play.
Is that? Yeah, I saw something
The
around.
game should have been over. Washington should have covered the game.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
the game should have been over.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, they were still letting them come back in the game and Washington. So, Jason, what do you think this week now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Washington is a particularly good team. But I do think this game is going to come down to Brown and Barkley being banged up. Are they playing? Because if either one of them doesn't play, I think Washington might have a chance in this game. I think if Brown and Barkley play, it's not even close.
Any team in the league has a chance if Brown doesn't play because Hurts is not the same quarterback.
I agree, and then Barkley too. I mean, Gainwell. Okay, he played all right last week, but come on. I mean, he's going to be your number one back. That's not going to work. So depends. Like if I hate to kind of put it this way, but if Brown and Barkley play, I think the Eagles win easily. If they don't play or one of them doesn't play, I think Washington's got a shot. So 24-20 either way.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they like listed
They were
as
saying Brown probably has a high ankle
They're
sprain, and
not.
if that's the case, he's going to be out a week or two. But Brown's saying I'm okay, but he didn't practice today.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm pulled today. So
they
Barkley.
had a lot of guys listed as like rest. Even Dickerson was
Yeah,
like
I know all the
So,
all
so
the
they're so
internet.
they're rest. So I think
Yeah,
if they're really hurt, they would get dinged for listing it as rest. So
yeah.
all the internet doctors stopped that play and said he's got a high ankle sprain. He's
yeah.
probably going to miss a week or two. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Their whole offensive line was on rest today. It looks like
Yeah, I can't
pretty
predict
much.
injuries. Yeah,
Um,
I actually thought. I mean, I'll go. I actually thought this was going to be a pretty tough game. I mean, this is Washington's last chance, really, in the division, and the Eagles are coming. They're just been playing such like physical games. They had a physical game against Baltimore. They had a tough win against Carolina. They had a physical game against Pittsburgh. Now they're going on the road. I wouldn't be shocked if they lose this game just because it. I mean, you're talking they're going to win 13 games in a row prior to the playoffs. It's possible, but you know how it goes. I mean, teams these 10. It's hard to do that, and I don't see them losing to the Giants. I don't see them losing to Dallas. So this would be the one that they had potentially could lose, and it's on the road. So I do. I think it's going to be a very tough game. Obviously, those guys play. It's going to be even tougher. Um, But Daniels got sacked 8 times last week, so he's already started.
They're not good. Washington. They're really not
Yeah.
good.
So I actually, in the end, I do have the Eagles winning this game. When I came with a prediction of a score, I think it's close. I got a 27-24. So I think the hook can come into play where the Eagles are winning by just the 3. Um, but I would, if the Eagles don't win this game, I would not be totally shocked. Especially if those guys are banged up or not playing. So, Chalky?
no, I'm on the same page as you. I mean, what jumped out to me was that after the games on Sunday, this game opened at 2.5, and Washington has not looked good against any half decent team for 2 months now, and there's no real home field advantage for Washington right now. The Eagles fans are going to travel. It's a short ride for the Eagles, so for the Eagles on a 10-game win streak to only be a 2.5-point favorite jumped out to me like is
but
being
the
funny.
movement, but to me, the movement negates that.
Now the movement, the Eagles have taken the money and they've moved the line, so now it's 3.5.
Yeah, but it's not even about taking the money. It's that Vegas saw they got hit probably by sharp money, being under 3, and said,
possibly,
"Shit, we got to move it to 3.5 to protect ourselves."
But it's only plus 150 if you want to bet the Commanders on the money line, so that's not a big number for a team that has not looked great, except for playing against the Titans and whoever other bad teams they've had to play against. And I guess this would be this is the last game that could be difficult in any sort of way for the Eagles in theory, as long as nobody gets hurt. So maybe, it's not a trap game, but is it a trap game? I don't know. But on paper, there's no reason the Eagles shouldn't win this game. But I'm gonna make it close like you guys. I have it 23-20 Eagles. Hurts has, I'm not convinced enough that Hurts will be as consistent this week. If he plays like he did the first game against Washington, where he was scared to throw or didn't do some things, then it'll be a closer game like it had been for most of that game. But yeah, I think it's a 3-point game right now.
Yeah, so we all got it pretty close. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the injuries. I'm thinking the 3.5 doesn't have those guys missing time, right?
No,
I don't think so. No.
So, I guess that's going to play a big factor, because if they don't play, you're gonna see probably a pretty big drop. Brown maybe not as much as Barkley. I think Barkley it'll drop under 3, but Brown too might. I mean, he's pretty important. So, okay, with that, we're on to picks.
Yep. So I'll give some stats. Over under was 7 over 9 under last week. Over still 113.94, which is pretty crazy in the year. Public had a big week last week. They're 11-5. 114 and 116 on the year. I did hear that DraftKings apparently sent out something to their shareholders saying that they had to reduce their revenue in Q4 because of I forget how they stated it, but like public success or something like that. So it it's been a public year, of course.
Yeah, and I didn't see. I don't. I'm sorry if I missed it, but um, I saw the picks league you do with and I saw the amount of people who had like 9, 10. I said, oh, the public must have went
Yeah,
absolutely bonkers
it's
this week.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Right? It's the same
Um,
conversation I have.
yeah. So all right. So let's do a picks. So the podcast did not do well this week. We were all 1 and 2. Chalky lost his best bet of the Lions. He also lost with the Chargers. Which Tom, that was an interesting game because Meeker had the Chargers, Chalky had the Chargers, and I had the Bucks as my best bet. So, and not because of their picks, it just so happened.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen.
But Chalky did win the Texans as his third pick, which is kind of odd because he never really wins his third pick, but he did. I went 1 and 2. I had the Bucks as my best bet, but I also had the Seahawks who got the doors blown off of them, and I had the Panthers who were just Bryce Young turned back into Bryce Young again last week. Meeker hit his best bet with the Vikings, so don't fall out of your
Vikings.
seats.
Monday night. Monday night.
Yeah, but he had the over in the Falcons Raiders.
That was a very public pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Meeker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
So Falcons Raiders over was not over, and then the Chargers he had. So let's go over our stats for the year. Chalky is 24 and 20, $210 profit, 55% win, 5% ROI. I'm even 22 and 22, but I'm at a loss of $206, 50% win, minus 5% ROI. Tommy is 16 and 23, loss of 849, 41% win, minus 22% ROI. Chalky is Meeker is 19 and 24, loss of $691, 44% win, minus 16% ROI. As a pod, we're 82 and 92, loss of $1,747, 47% win, minus 10% ROI. Best bets, I'm 9 and 5 on my best bets. The rest of my picks are terrible. 9 and 5, 29 and 19 overall for 3 years, 60%. Tommy's 5 and 8, 24 and 22 overall, 52%. Chalky 6 and 9, even 25 and 25, 50%. Meeker 6 and 9, 21 and 28, 43%. For his 3-year best bets. And then overall, for the 3 years, I'm 85 and 64, profit of $1,303, 57% win, 9% ROI. Tommy, 69 and 70, loss of $502, 49.6% win, minus 4% ROI. Chalky, 73 and 77, loss of $989, 49% win, minus 7% ROI. Meeker, 69 and 76, loss of $1,377, 48% win, minus 9% ROI. And as a total, the pod is 296 and 287, loss of $1,564, 51% win, minus 2.7% ROI.
All right, maybe we can turn it around this week. All 4 have picks this week. Chalky is leading this year. Show us how to do it, Chalky.
I don't even have a response to that, but we'll go ahead with the 3 selections. So top pick this week is going to be under 46 in the Rams-Jets game. That's minus 108. Second pick is going to be a Thursday night game since we were recording this on Wednesday. I'm going to take, I almost said the Clippers because I wrote LAC. The Chargers again, minus 2.5, minus 115. And third pick, like I said, I think it's a close game. So with the hook, I'm going to take Washington plus 3.5 at minus 110 against the Eagles.
All right. Jay, you want to read Meeker's picks?
Yeah, I'll give you Meeker's picks. His best bet, is the Lions, -6.5, -110. He also has the Saints, +14, -105. And he has the 49ers, Dolphins, under 44.5, -110. So those are the gems of Chris Meeker.
All right. Well, for mine, I did something a little bit different. I'm going to do a spread. I'm going to do an over, and I'm going to do an under
All right.
because
Let's hear it.
nothing else works. As my best bet, I'm going to go with Baltimore -6, -115. I think Pittsburgh coming off that Eagles game, that was a tough game. They lost. Watts kind of banged up.
And isn't that spread shady? Like, because everybody says, "Oh, it's Pittsburgh Baltimore is always 3-point game, always 3-point game." Yet it's -6.
It's high. Yeah, it's high.
Yeah,
Right.
they said last week
Almost-
Pittsburgh. All they got to do is, well, we know we have to beat Baltimore, and then we'll get the division still. So, it's a
Yeah.
6-point
I almost
game.
had that pick, but that would be my fourth pick.
No, I looked at that too.
So that's my best bet. My second pick, I'm going to go with over in the Giants-Atlanta game, which is 42 -108. So everybody thinking Drew Lock and Penix, who's now quarterbacking for the Atlanta Falcons, predicting a lower score. Maybe the Giants put up some points. And for my third game, I'm going to go with under in the Minnesota-Seattle game, which is 43.5 -112. So we'll see how that works out for me. Probably poorly, if I had to guess.
All right, so my best bet is going to be the Texans +3.5, -110. Chiefs, Mahomes banged up. Sounds like
Is he playing? Is he playing?
Yeah, he's playing. He practiced, so maybe he doesn't play. Maybe I get a benefit, but I think he's playing. But he's not going to be healthy. The Chiefs just don't blow anybody out. I'm not a huge fan of the Texans this year, but I like getting that 3.5. Even if the Chiefs win, I don't think they cover that 3.5. So that'll be my best bet. My second pick, and I was thrilled to hear this, is the Bears +6.5, -110. Because Meeker's got the Lions -6.5. I, honest to God, had that pick before Meeker gave me his picks, but I was thrilled to hear it. The Lions are just so banged up. I mean, listen, the Bears are a mess. Caleb Williams has the pocket presence, I think I said today, of Stevie Wonder.
I saw. Did you see the clip that
Stevie Wonder's not actually blind, so he might be worse.
Maybe Ray Charles then.
Did you see the clip where he like does a hurdle, a spin move, and then just threw
it nowhere in the end zone. It was
but there was a guy wide open.
He doesn't see the field. There
was a guy wide open early in the route that he just doesn't throw to. Then he runs around and everybody's talking about how great he is.
I'm astonished how he doesn't see the field at all.
I didn't think they could get much worse after by firing the coach, but they have managed to get worse the last 2 weeks than as bad as they looked with Eberflus.
But that being said, the Lions are they're just a mess right now. They're just so beat up. I don't know. I mean, obviously they could win that game, but I just think the Bears will keep it close. And then I'm going to take the Patriots +14, -108. I think the Bills are coming off that big win against the Lions. Now they're coming home to play the Patriots. It's a letdown game for them.
There's 2 14-point spreads this week.
Yeah,
I know.
Oh my god!
But that's just, to me, that's a huge letdown game. 14 points in division, and the Patriots they don't quit really. They keep playing, so they might backdoor that game. So that's it.
Yeah, my only fear there was, because I looked at that, is like the Bills got beat up so bad by the Patriots for so many years. Like, do they want to just stick it to them now that they're just a dominant team? I know that's not really.
Yeah.
But that was my only fear on that one, because I looked at that as well. All right. As we said, there's going to be a lot of football over the next 2 weeks. By the time, what's today? Wednesday. So we got, like we said, we got a Thursday game, 2 Saturday games, the Sunday game, a Monday game, and then you got games. Is it just one game on Christmas Day or
2 games?
No,
2 games on Christmas Day. Sad. So it's just, there's a lot of football going to be played. You don't know where it's going to be broadcasted. Who knows? You got to go to 9,000.
It's gonna be a lot of bad football being played.
to find it. There's going to be some bad announcing
Bad
crews, as I
announcing.
saw some of the NFL channel crews for.
I hope.
guess the Christmas
I really hope SpongeBob is an alternate commentary for one of these because that wasn't too bad for the Super Bowl.
And
but-
before we finish, and I'm gonna end it. What was that Simpsons nonsense I kept saying?
I watched it for 5
I-
minutes and I was done.
Well, I saw it on Twitter, like Homer Simpson's throwing the Barney, and I can't believe that's really like a. It's just
It was, yeah, it was a thing. And I was like, okay, I'm a Simpsons fan. I have a curiosity here, and I put the ESPN Plus stream on or whatever. And 5 minutes, I was like, no.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that it was like 3 minutes behind the actual game on TV.
Yeah, because they had to
they have to
mimic-
do
they had to
everything
mimic
there, and
play.
it's like, no.
Yeah.
My curiosity was done.
It's just insane. But episode 138 of Broad Street Hustle. We'll be back next week, probably the day after Christmas, which would be back to our regular day of Thursday to recap everything. Have a great night.
Jersey, even you guys, Santa Claus is coming. All right, come on, everybody, sing it with me one more time. Santa Claus is coming to town. 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 Merry Christmas, Philly.